You ever argued for an hour and then realized that you and the other person weren't even using the key words in the same way? I agree with Socrates that many, if not most, disagreements in debates and discussions stem from ill-defined concepts and words. People talk past each other all the time. So the aim of this video is to clarify what a definition is and to exemplify the different types of definitions used in philosophical literature. So let's start by defining the word definition. A definition is a statement that fixes the meaning of a term by giving the conditions under which it correctly applies. And a definition can broadly be categorized into two main types: denotative and connotative types of definitions. Let's first deal with denotative definitions. A denotative definition explains a term by specifying its extension, that is, by indicating the actual objects, cases, or instances the term applies to. The denotative definitions can in turn be subdivided into three subcategories: enumeration, ostensive, and recursive types of definitions. Let's do enumerative first. When you provide an enumerative definition, you're defining a term by listing all its members or instances. For example, let's say you want to define the word Nordic countries. You could do so by listing the members that the term applies to. So you would say Sweden, Norway, Denmark, Finland, and Iceland. And if you want to define primary colors, you would say red, blue, and yellow. Providing an enumerative definition is obviously very impractical if the members of the term you're defining is very large or maybe even infinite. So you wouldn't use an enumerative definition to define the term numbers, for example, because then you have to list all the numbers and that would take you an infinity. Let's now move to the second type of denotative definition, an ostensive one. An ostensive definition defines a term by directly pointing to or showing a concrete example of it. For example, pointing to a red apple and saying, "This is red," or pointing to a dog and saying, "This is a dog." And showing pictures and videos would also apply. And the third and final type of denotative definition is when you define something by giving a base case and a rule for generating all other cases from it. It's sometimes also called inductive definition. An example would be the family term ancestor, whose base we can say is your parents are your ancestors. The rule can then be, if X is an ancestor of you, then X's parents are also your ancestors. Now that we have covered the three types of denotative definitions, let's turn our attention to connotative definitions. You provide a connotative definition by giving the intension of a term, namely its essential properties or characteristics, rather than listing instances. And connotative definitions, just like denotative ones, have three subcategories: synonymous, operational, and definition by genus and difference. To synonymously define a term is to give another word or phrase with roughly the same meaning. For example, the word enormous. You could define it as enormous means very large. Or the word physician. You could say physician means medical doctor. The second subcategory of a connotative definition is an operational one, in which you define a term by specifying the process or test used to identify or measure it. Let's say, for example, that you want to define intelligence. You could say intelligence is what an IQ test measures. Or if you want to define depression, you could say a person is depressed if they score above X on the standardized depression questionnaire. The third and final type of connotative definition is when you define a term by giving its genus, the broader class, and its difference, which is the feature that sets it apart from other members of the class. Let's say you want to define democracy. The genus could then be political system. And the difference would be power is vested in the people, directly or via representatives. That would give us the following definition of democracy. A democracy is a political system in which power is vested in the people. And that's it. To summarize, denotative definitions point to instances, connotative definitions spell out properties.